Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So, today we are actually on episode 39. We are almost to 40, and so far, season two is going great. I've been able to talk to past guests, on here. They've been able to rejoin and talk about different topics on here. And I've also had new guests on here, which, speaking of past and new guests, I actually have both today with me. So, I want to welcome back Danielle to my channel. This is her second time on here. And the first episode that she was on, we talked about working out and exercising and the importance behind that and ways to not get sore, because that was definitely something that I fall guilty of for sure, getting sore, and just different healthy ways to eat too. So we talked a lot about the your health basically, which is very important. So I'm glad that she's back here today. So welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Which before I introduce our next guest, I want to quickly congratulate Danielle, because over this past weekend she actually did a half marathon. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
I know that had to be hard, because for me, even like a 5K for me, I don't know why it's like so challenging even doing a 5K alone. So, and then I know you went through a lot of training. You had a trainer with you, and I saw your pictures that you had like a good support group there waiting for you at the finish line.
Yes, yes, my entire family showed up. It was a good time. Definitely the hardest thing I ever done, but it was so worth it. The experience was great.
Yes, most definitely. So I'm glad that you were able to finish that, because I know you had a few obstacles that happened like right before. So I'm glad that you were able to overcome those obstacles and you had that mental mindset that you were going to finish regardless. So definitely
Yes,
proud of you for that.
thank you.
So so that is Danielle. And then also we have a new guest here today. This is Robbie. I've known Robbie for a few months now, probably a good maybe 7, 8 months now. We actually met in person actually while I was in Chicago back in April. And he is actually from Chicago area. Actually, before that, I actually met him on United Young as well, along with Danielle and a few others that I've had here on my podcast. So I've known him for a little bit, and I definitely am glad to get to know him. Done a few different Bible studies with him along with our friend Mike. So definitely enjoyed those conversations as well, just talking about the word, which is always good to talk about. And I'm glad that he was able to join today. So welcome to the channel, Robbie.
Thank you for having me.
So before I get into these questions and before I tell you what the topic is about, I'm actually going to have Robbie just briefly introduce himself, just tell us where he's from, which I've kind of already said that, but he's going to kind of tell us he's going to tell us what he does for a living. So take it away.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Robbie, and I'm Japanese American, but born and raised in Oklahoma, and then moved out to Chicago here for work. And I do like part-time ministry work and part-time graphic design now. I kind of felt called to go into that world, so took a step back from the full-time agency life, and so um, that kind of I think it'll fit well with the topic. I started the remote work life a little bit before COVID hit, so got kind of lucky on that.
Yes, most definitely. So yeah, so it's that you're like a jack of all trades. You can do all things. You can do ministry, and then you can also do your other job too. So that's awesome. And before I get into this topic, you actually recently just went to New York City as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, how was that?
It was good. I just went to go visit a friend, and then uh, they live out in the Boston area, so then we took a bus down to New York for a day and a half. So
Oh,
it was really
awesome.
good. I could explore the city a bit. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I've never been to Boston, so I hope to go one day. Do you recommend it?
it was pretty nice. I just kind of explored a little bit more of the historical downtown area, and just kind of was mostly there to visit people. So I didn't do as much exploring, but it was really good.
Okay, nice. So yeah, I hope to go one day. I don't know when, but fingers crossed it will happen here soon. So So that is both Danielle and Robbie. So we're actually going to go ahead and get into this topic. So today's topic of the day is going to be life before and after COVID. So that is actually COVID, of course, is something that has affected everybody, regardless of age, stage, every area of life. It has affected everybody in some way, one way or another. So I thought this would be a good topic to talk about. COVID is still something that's happening, but it's not as, I guess, as impactful as it used to be maybe back in
Mm.
2020, to where we were stuck at home and like not even able to go out back in the early 2020s. So but it's still a thing, it's still around, and it's still real, definitely. But a lot of things have changed since COVID. So I thought I would get into a few different questions that I'm going to ask both Danielle and Robbie about regarding COVID. So I think I am going to go ahead and get into this first question. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to have Danielle answer first, and then I'm going to have Robbie answer after her, and then I will put my input. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first question is, how has the workforce and schools changed since COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like a lot of things have definitely changed since COVID. I mean, we're definitely living in a new normal for sure. But I can definitely speak more to the work side since that's my life, Monday through Friday. Honestly, it seems like companies have been becoming more flexible and offering hybrid for their employees. So maybe that's in person, maybe like 1 to 2 times a week, and then you're at home other days. It just depends on your job. And then there are some companies, especially in that tech industry, that's offering fully remote. And that's how it is at my job. So I'm able to work from home, which is what I love the most. And honestly, I have no desire to go back in person. It's been way too long. Honestly, I don't miss the office lifestyle. I recently traveled to my office for work, I think back in September, and I was only there for a few days. And even then, it was just weird. I was like, I'm ready to like just be back at home. Like, it's just like, it was a lot of people. It was just weird. It's just like, I realized how much more productive I am if I just work in my own little office space in the comfort of my four walls. And as far as schools, I mean, it seems like I'm just thinking about college. It seems like, a lot of students are back on campus, of course, but it seems like
Mm.
they're also offering like, probably more online courses where kids, again, students can take the courses from home, or they can do it kind of hybrid as well. So it seems like, things are pretty flexible, and it looks like for the younger kids, I mean, I guess I'm assuming they're back in school too. Again, I don't have any children, so can't speak too much on it, but I'm sure like, maybe parents might be doing more homeschooling, like, who knows, it really depends on the situation. But I mean, I know for sure that things, look different for sure in both areas. Like I said, we're in a new normal. Things will never be the same again, but it's also not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, definitely a lot of changes for sure. Yeah, how about you, Robbie?
I think for me, I luckily got a head start because whenever I went into ministry work, I kind of did more just like small like freelance gigs for a while. And so I had already kind of transitioned to a little bit of like that remote lifestyle. And so like transition wise, it wasn't too bad, but I think it was definitely different with like I think there was a lot more influx of people trying to do freelance and like at home work. And so on one hand, like it was great that I was already kind of comfortable with it. But on the other hand, like I feel like the market became a lot more saturated. So like trying to find more gigs and stuff, like um there was like a mix of there's a lot more remote work, but there's also just as many like there's more people trying to get the same things. And so it felt like it kind of was a little bit more competitive. And then I think I personally can't speak to the kids as well, but I know I have friends that have kids, and I think it was good. It was really good for family time, I think, because like now they're home for like a lot more of the day. And I know my brother-in-law actually was I think he's still teaching middle school. And so they started doing like an AB program back down in Oklahoma where like kids will come every other day. And so for him, he was kind of, I remember talking to my sister and she was saying they appreciated the fact that rather than having like one teacher trying to deal with a classroom of 30 kids, and trying to divide your attention in between everyone, and people kind of fall through the cracks when he only had to deal with 15 at a time. So he could actually spend time getting to know each kid, getting to really like speak to them rather than just trying to keep track of the classroom. And so on one hand, it ended up being like more of a blessing in the sense that he could actually pour into each person's life a little bit better than just kind of trying to wrangle the whole group of like people. And I think um definitely like I think it makes you reevaluate like what meetings or like what like, so it's kind of even what you were saying at the office, like you come in and there's like too many people to the point where you're like, I just don't want to really interact with anyone, but it makes the interactions you have more meaningful because you're going out of your way to like engage. So I think I'm like, I think it's both blessing and curse of like you're not forced to run into anyone anymore, but on the other hand, the people you do run into, you like consciously like actively try and do that. So I think that's
Yeah, that's definitely good answers from both of y'all. Things have definitely changed for sure. Like even in my life as well. Like as far as a workforce, I've always worked, in person before COVID, and well, I guess with one of my jobs, I had no choice but to work in person because I was working at a grocery store.
mm,
So you can't virtually do that. You
yeah.
can't so I, had to do that for while I was in high school and college, just working part time there. And then once I graduated from college, I started working at my current job, which is Coca-Cola. And I only worked there like for, uh, I'm trying to think how many months, maybe like 10 months before COVID hit. So I've worked longer virtually than I have,
Mhm.
remotely than I have
That's kind of
and
cool.
physically. So, I've been able to kind of have the both worlds, happen for me. But I, like Danielle, I probably prefer working remotely for many reasons. One big reason is the idea of like having to drive to and from work. Like for me, it's like a 35-minute drive to and from. And
Ooh.
I had to go through like downtown Birmingham, which Birmingham is like one of the busiest cities here in Alabama.
Mm,
It's not, the traffic's not as crazy compared to like Atlanta or New York or something like that,
mm,
but we still have our moments, our little crazy moments with traffic after work. So I definitely
mm,
don't miss that. And then also the idea of having to like get all like dressed up and like
mm,
wear business casual. I like the idea of just working in my PJs, being very comfy and just enjoying that for sure. And also sometimes like if I'm like if I have a slow day at work, like
mm,
do like other things, I can like get into the Bible and read the word, or I could always like watch something on TV or listen to music, or I could just do something like while I'm still keeping my eye on my work, making sure nothing's popping
mm,
up. But there I can kind of like be a little bit more like of a multitasker basically, around my
mm,
house. So that was definitely like a big thing for me that like I actually enjoy. I mean, I know there are some pros and cons to working remotely. I kind of ignore the cons, but I mean, I know like one
mm,
big bad thing about the con is that like you don't have that social interaction, which for
mm,
me can be a like a curse and a blessing because I'm very like introverted, and that's kind of one big reason why I wanted to do this podcast is
mm,
because like I've always been known as like there's that quiet guy from school, like
mm,
he never spoke and all of this. And even at work, I still kind of had that introvert kind of, that's just kind of always been who I
mm,
am. So once I heard that we were working remote, I was like, oh, like thank you, Lord. I don't have to feel like I have to talk to people. Like I can just work from home. But at the same time, I've been able to build like friendships with a few of my coworkers. So
mm,
not getting to see them in person like as much can be
mm,
like, it doesn't feel the same talking to them like remotely. Like it's always nice to actually get to talk to somebody face to face, so I can kind of see it both ways, because you don't have that social interaction, which thank goodness for things like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, because I guess it does make it a little bit easier. I'm sure if COVID was happening like 30, 40 years before, this probably wouldn't even be a thing. So for to where we can meet even face to face like this. So I guess that's a good thing. I guess the time that we were living in. So that's, I guess, like as far as the workforce, that's something that has affected me. School, like not as much as well, because I'm out of college and I don't have any kids either, but I do have nephews and nieces. And just I remember at first when they were trying to transition back into school, there was a lot of debate over like should kids wear masks, should they not wear masks, and it seemed like it became like a lot of, I guess, a lot of protesting over like, yes, you need to wear a mask, or like don't make people wear masks, which we will get into later into the conversation. But